Welcome back to the second part of our presentation on the supplementary paper, March 2015. In the previous transmission broadcast, we focused on the section A and the first part of section 2, rather question 2 of this paper, and now we are going to carry on from question 2.4 until the end of the paper. Question 2.4 says that the graph shows the blood glucose concentration in a normal person and in a person with diabetes mellitus. Both persons ingested 100 milliliters of glucose at 30 minutes. Clearly you can see the blood glucose rise. So when you look at the graph, on the x-axis time in minutes and on the y-axis blood glucose concentration. The questions: what is the blood glucose concentration of the person with diabetes mellitus at 90 minutes? So you are looking at the top person, the one with the disorder or the disease, and then at 90 minutes you just take it from there and you read it off. Remember the unit, but they give the unit gram per cubic centimeter. So the mark won't be for the unit, but for the number 0.25. 0.25 gram per cubic centimeter. But our learners must always remember to write the unit. How many minutes after the ingestion of glucose did the glucose concentration reach its highest level in the normal person? How long after ingestion? Ingestion was 30 minutes. The normal person, of the highest mark, the highest point, of course, is there. But when you bring it down, it's at 45 minutes. So the difference between 45 and 30 tells us that 15 minutes after the ingestion, the glucose level reached its highest point. Describe two differences in the pattern of the blood glucose concentration for the person with diabetes and a normal person. Let us quickly look at the memorandum. Blood glucose level of a person with diabetes is higher. So again, the concept of glucose being higher than that of a normal person at all times. There is a greater increase. Blood glucose level is higher than a normal person at all times. Greater increase in blood glucose of a person with diabetes after ingestion of glucose compared to the normal person. It takes longer for the blood glucose to stabilize for the person with diabetes mellitus compared to a normal person. So it's about the concepts, describing, explaining. It's 2 times 2. So mention the fact plus explain the fact. And 2 of them. Mark the first 2 facts plus the explanation given. Explain the reason for the differences mentioned in this question. And then the last question, name 2 hormones that have the opposite effect to that of insulin. Explain the reason. Because the person with diabetes does not produce insulin or is insulin resistant, that brings about that difference. Therefore, blood glucose is not converted to glycogen. So the people marking this paper were looking for this last part also convert to glycogen. And then, of course, 2 other hormones that has the opposite effect than that of adrenaline is glucagon and, opposite effect than that of insulin. Insulin lowers blood sugar. Glucagon will be able to increase blood sugar, and adrenaline also will be able to increase the blood sugar. That is then the end of question 2. Question 3. Study the flow diagram below of a homeostatic mechanism used to regulate the concentration of salts. There's the key word. Homeostatic mechanism regulating the concentration of salt in the human body. Quickly, the diagram is about decrease in salt or sodium concentration. There's a receptor organ that receives the stimulus. There's a gland that reacts to this stimulus, an effector that responds to it, and then a normal salt concentration. First of all, this part when salt is decreasing in the body, salt concentration, and that part when salt is increasing as a concentration in the body. Define the definition of homeostasis. Define homeostasis. Of course, the process by which the human body is able to maintain a constant internal environment. The emphasis on constant internal environment is important. Then learners should mention or name the different organs and glands and hormones. Organ A, learners should know now what is the target organ if this, or what is not the target organ, what is the organ that receives the stimulus in this case. There is the target organ at D, of course. So the organ that receives the stimulus, organ A, is the kidney. It's in the kidneys. There are receptors receiving this stimulus of a decrease in salt or an increase in salt also. Then gland B, what gland responds to this stimulus? It is the adrenal gland. And what hormone is now secreted to regulate salt concentration? Of course, it is aldosterone. And then where does it go and what does it do is not part of this question. Describe the response by the effector at D. The effector at D, you can clearly see what is now going to happen. If there's a decrease or an increase, the kidney receives the impulse, the gland starts to secreting the hormone, aldosterone, and then an effector that responds at D, as given as in the question. Now let's see, 3.1.3, it all takes place at kidney level. The walls of the renal tubules become more permeable, allowing for a greater reabsorption of sodium ions. It becomes more permeable for salt, of course, for sodium ions, allowing for a greater reabsorption, and in that process, from the filtrate inside the kidney tubules, it happens, and into the blood capillaries as well. So it is allowing for a greater reabsorption of sodium ions from the filtrate into the blood capillaries. And during that situation, the salt concentration is being regulated. Question 3.2, very popular these days, are a passage given and then answers from the passage. This part of the paper all about human impact on the environment. Therefore, our teachers mustn't underestimate this part. It counts a lot of marks in paper 1, and we can't just assume that learners and teachers did it in grade 11 properly. We must reteach it again. We must reassess it. We must give proper workbook, homework and classwork activities on the human impact. There are a lot of notes available, as well as a mind map that learners can use, so that our learners will be well prepared for this part of the work. Popular Dam is a biological desert in abbreviated commas. The Hartbeespoort Dam is situated in a residential area in Northwest. Unfortunately, it is rapidly becoming a biological desert due to pollution by 2.7 million people living in the surrounding area, as well as the 722 megaliters of treated sewage water flowing into the dam. The inflow of treated sewage water increased the amount of phosphates present in the dam. This reduced the biodiversity of the dam, resulting in only 2 plant species, the water hyacinth and algae, and only 3 fish species, common carp, the barbel, and the canary kerper, remaining in the dam, leading to an overpopulation of these species. The Department of Water Affairs started a biological control program to reduce the population of the remaining species so that other species could recolonize in the dam, or recolonize the dam. After a year, the biodiversity of the dam increased. Questions. Based on the text above, explain what is meant by the dam, or by the term biological desert. Biological desert means it has nothing to do with an actual desert. It's just a comparison. So it means a low number of species or a low biodiversity, or if learners wrote, a low number of animals or plants. Explain why the increased phosphate levels caused a decrease in biodiversity. Let's look at that answer. The first answer, a low number of species, the biological desert, a low biodiversity, or a low number of animals or plants. It has the same meaning. So what will happen? Increased phosphate levels caused a decrease in biodiversity. Explain why. Because the addition of phosphates caused eutrophication. Again, it is the concept which led to an increase in algal growth. So learners can't only write algae or algal growth. Increase, or algal bloom, it's also called, which depleted the oxygen in the water, thus reducing its ability to support a variety of life forms. If learners write more plants or animals will die, more organisms will die, it can also be accepted as correct. Any 3 of these marks are correct. 3.2.3, explain how the reduction in biodiversity can affect the ecological balance in the dam. Now it's about herbivores, carnivores, primary consumers, secondary consumers influencing one another, as well as producers, of course. The length of the food chains will be reduced. You will get shorter food chains. The complexity of food webs will be reduced because of that. That will result in organisms feeding on the remaining species having excess food. That can lead to overpopulation, while organisms depending on the species that were lost will have less or no food available. And that leads to their death or migration, they move away. Learners can also write only 3 fish and 2 plant species remained in the dam. That is why all these other things happened. So any 4 of those marks learners can be credited for. The last question, very popular question also, one of the terms that learners should know and must know. What is meant by biological control? Biological control means the use of living organisms to control the numbers of other organisms. The use of living organisms to control the numbers of other organisms. 2 marks. Question 3.3. Again, information given in the form of a table. Table below shows the global carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel, combustion and some industrial processes in 2008. Countries given, of course, China, the European Union, the USA, India and other countries. And then the number of carbon dioxide emissions in a percentage. That is important to notice. First question. Draw a pie chart to represent the data in the table for 6 marks. A pie chart. Learners should be prepared and be able to draw a pie chart if being asked. So the first part of a pie graph, and I can tell teachers that during our marking process in March, very, very few learners get to this part of making the calculation. So please, because there's marks allocated for this, and if you can't calculate this, you can't draw the chart. You can't use your protractor to draw a pie chart. So please, make sure our learners are able to make these calculations. It's easy. You take from the table because it's a percentage. So my segments will be different percentages, totaling, of course, 100%. For China, the calculation is 23% divided by 100 times 360. Why 360 degrees? As to bring us to a angle that we can measure with our protractors. So the answer there, 82.8 degrees. The next one, European Union, same calculation, 46.8, USA 68, and so you do the calculations for the rest. If the learners round it off, in other words, they say 83 degrees, 47 degrees, 68 degrees, because of the decimal figures, you can credit them for the calculations, but then the angles here will differ a small bit. So just make sure, maybe they will still be lucky and get to the final product, but rounding off is also acceptable. Then after this, of course, learners take their protractors. They can start, even if they want to start horizontally with a horizontal line, and from there get the first one in any direction and in any order. They can now draw, and please teachers make sure we don't have time this morning to explain again and to show the use of a protractor, drawing these circles and pie graphs. But in a previous presentation, I'm sure there was an explanation of exactly that. So the end product, of course, and now very importantly, learners must now indicate with a key. They can show with a key or by making patterns inside the pie graph and writing in the countries, in this case. China, some learners also write China 23% in brackets, which is not wrong because that is exactly what it is, but then to get to that exact angle, and so for the rest as well. Just to show teachers how the marking process, and for learners, how the marking process goes, we use a transparency like this. We use a transparency where we beforehand draw exactly the angles, writing in the names of the countries as well as the percentages as well as the degrees, because many learners write the degrees also in there. And then for marking purposes, you just place your transparency on top of the diagram that learners draw, and immediately you can see for that particular part of the question they can get full credit. Learners can change the order of the segments. So markers should be sensitive by saying if China maybe fits but the next one don't, then maybe just check, didn't the learner maybe use the USA as the second segment? And that applies for the rest of the countries as well. Mark allocation in this case, correct type of graph, 1 mark. If the type is correct, in other words, it's a pie graph, learners will get 1 mark, even if the rest is incorrect. Caption, be careful, look for 2 variables, carbon dioxide emission of different countries in 2008. Those are the 2, so they can have a mark for the caption. Correct calculations, for all those calculations, if 1 to 4 calculations are correct, 1 mark, and all 5 correct, 2 marks. And then using the transparency, if 1 to 3 sectors are correct, 1 mark, but if all sectors are correct, a full complement of 2 marks. If the wrong type of graph is drawn, marks will be awarded for caption only. Question 3.3.2, explain the impact of the increased carbon dioxide emissions on the environment. It leads to the enhanced greenhouse effect, thus global warming, influences weather patterns, which can destroy habitats, leading to a decrease in biodiversity. Or they could say it influences the ozone layer, which leads to all this weather patterns and global warming. There are the mark allocation for 3.3.2. 3.3.3 asks, each country has been given a mandate to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions to reach a certain target. This is reviewed annually by the Conference of Parties, COP, a United Nations organization comprising 195 countries that meets to assess progress in dealing with climate change. About that information, explain 2 reasons why some countries are against reducing the carbon dioxide emissions by their industries. It could be the fact that it's too expensive to change the machinery. It will be expensive to change the machinery to produce less carbon dioxide. It's too expensive to purchase or develop new systems to remove the carbon dioxide, or it will reduce the profit that will lead to job losses. Any of those 2 times 2 will give the learner 4 marks. 3.4 is about phototropism. Information given here. Tobeka investigated the effect of auxins on the growth of 3 plant shoots, A, B, and C. The plant shoots were treated as follows. Shoot A, not treated in any way. So this one, not treated in any way with auxins. Shoot B, the tip removed and an agar plate with auxins placed on top. So this one has auxins. And the third one, tip removed and agar plate without auxins. So no auxins placed on the third one. Questions. Identify the independent variable in this investigation. The independent variable, of course, the treatment of the plant shoot. Or if learners write the agar plate with auxins, the treatment that was given. Either it was given auxins or it was not, or nothing has been done. So the treatment is the independent variable, the one that you change. State 2 factors that must be kept constant. What do you keep constant in this investigation? You should use the same type of plant. You can't use for the one shoot one plant and for another because they differ when it comes to phototropism or growth. This in fact was not really phototropism, it was about growth, the role of auxins in the growth of of a stem. Placed in the same environment, for example, if learners write light and temperature, no problem, they can get full marks for that. Same amount of time, tip removed at the same length, same concentration of auxins, same type of agar. That must be kept constant. Only 2, but the question says state 2. In other words, then we mark only the first 2 that learners give. Unfortunately, if there's a lot of wrong answers and then suddenly there's correct answers, you should mark only the first 2, either right or wrong. 3.4.3, explain the results that was observed in A, the results in A without any treatment, as well as in C. Explain the results observed in B, the one that received the auxins, and C, the one that did not receive auxins. Should B, with the auxins, of course, will show upward growth, but it says explain, so you must give a reason for that. Auxins in the agar gel diffuse downwards into the shoot, leading to cell elongation and growth. C, no auxins, no growth in shoot C. Shoot tips contain no auxins. That's the reason. There's my what happens, and there's my reason. What happens? Reason. That is what is meant by explain. And then, of course, the last question asks, suggest 2 ways in which Thobeka could have improved the reliability. Reliability, always repeat the investigation or increase your sample size. In other words, use more than 1 plant per investigation. That is the end of our section B. The last question, section C. We have a few minutes to spare, so let us concentrate on section C. The essay question. I'm immediately going to encircle keywords. The unicellular zygote undergoes many developmental changes until it becomes a multicellular fetus, nourished and protected by the mother. In other words, it's about human reproduction, it's about gestation, and about looking after the fetus by the mother during this 9 months. Now, keywords. Describe the changes, changes that allow the zygote to eventually develop into a fetus. In other words, changes from the zygote to a fetus, first of all. And how this fetus is nourished and protected. Those are the keywords. Changes from zygote to fetus, and how this fetus is nourished and protected. In other words, how does it get its food, and how is it protected by the mother's body. So those are my keywords. As we tell learners many times, and unfortunately we don't have much time today to explain that, but learners can really start by making use of mind maps. If I can quickly draw mind maps showing a central topic, like in this case zygote, and now changes that the zygote undergoes. Remember, this is not part of your answer, so this learners do not write in on their scripts. They do this on their examination paper, this one, or a rough piece of paper. It's just their planning, the planning of the essay. So from there they can say, okay, the zygote changes into a 4-cell stage or a 2-cell stage, and then to a morula. They can write all those terms there, and then after all to a blastocyst, and the blastocyst moves down and is implanted into the endometrium of the uterus. So all those keywords can be placed there. And then maybe another mind map where they can indicate, okay, the nourishment for one, and maybe the protection. Nourishment and protection. And then they can indicate different ways, amniotic fluid for nourishment, as well as protection, which parts of the female is protecting. And from here, from this planning part, now they can go and describe, taking from the zygote the different parts of this mind map to fill in their essay as a description or a descriptive question. Now let us, for the last part of this presentation, look at the possible answer. Remember, as I said, first of all, the zygote changes should be explained. The zygote divides by mitosis, first of all, to form a ball of cells called a morula. More mitotic divisions in the morula occurs to form a hollow ball of cells. This is called a blastocyst. So if you look at the bottom, any 17 marks could have been marked, or the learners could have been credited for. So all these, not the first two or only three, all of these could play a role. Now, what happens? So this part, blastocyst attaches to the endometrial lining. This is still part of the development. Outer wall of blastocyst is called the chorion. Develops projections called villi, which embeds or implants into the uterine wall. The cells of embryo continues to divide and differentiate to form the different organs and limbs, and is now called a fetus. The fetus is enclosed in a sac called the amnion with amniotic fluid. Okay, so up to here, up to the word amnion, this whole part is about the development, that first part of the question. Describe the changes that allows the zygote, the changes. So these are all the changes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 marks that they can get already there. And then the other 4 from the protection and the nourishment. Right, so this section, the fetus is enclosed in a sac called the amnion with amniotic fluid. It protects the fetus against temperature fluctuations, dehydration, as well as mechanical injury. So this part, so that is the development, changes for development or changes. This part is all about protection of the fetus, and then this last part will be, of course, part of nourishment, of nutrition, getting nutrition from the mother. The chorionic villi and the endometrium form the placenta, where the blood of both the fetus and the mother run close to one another, close to each other, allowing for nutrients to diffuse into the blood. The umbilical vein, which is part of the umbilical cord, carries the absorbed nutrients from the mother to the fetus. So for the word umbilical cord, the learners did not get the mark, but for the word umbilical vein, part of the umbilical cord, which carries the absorbed nutrients from the mother to the fetus. So those are your 17 marks of content that learners obtained. Now this other one of assessing the presentation. In other words, the synthesis, the 3 marks for synthesis. And we ask teachers really in future, if you are marking now in the test, in future tests coming and in exams coming, please write down on the learner script the letters R, L, and C. You can even write the letter F for facts, the F for the 17, and then underneath that R, L, and C to show your allocation of marks for relevance, logical sequence, and comprehensiveness, this last on C. So there you can indicate for facts, this one got 12, and then either 1, 0, 1, or 0, 0, 0, or what the case may be. Now let us look how the allocation of marks work. All information provided is relevant to the topic. The topic was changes, protection, and nourishment of fetus. And before I go any further, our learners did poorly in this essay, in the supplementary papers, because we expect that learners stop studying after the female menstrual cycle and the ovarian cycle and the hormones and the systems, male and female systems. They never get to studying the zygote development as well as the embryo development when it comes to nourishment and protection. So make sure our learners study all the work. Everything is relevant. It means only information relating to the development of zygote to the fetus and its nutrition and protection is included. No irrelevant information, then that mark can be allocated. Ideas are arranged in a logical cause-effect sequence. Cause-effect. What is the cause? What is the effect because of the cause? Events that lead to the change from a zygote to a fetus are stated in the order in which they occur. So order is given correctly. Another mark. And then the last mark. All 3 aspects, answer all aspects required by the essay. Again, about the 3 topics, all 3 aspects are included. So if learners write 2 pages on only development, they can't get this mark because they left out nutrition and protection. If they only wrote on nutrition, they will still don't get that last mark. If they covered all 3 aspects included, For that first part, they get for the relevance. For this last part, the comprehensiveness of the content. Those are your final 3 marks. You add that to the facts, and that gives you the total of the essay, which of course is 20, 17 plus 3. We really appreciate the fact that you are viewing this presentation, and we ask that this should be shared with children, that this paper, as well as paper 2, of course, of the supplementary ones, should be handled very, very well during your revision and during your extra class sessions. Thank you for this opportunity. Goodbye.